Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna. On behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today, we have Dan Blanchard with us. He is a best-selling and award-winning author, speaker, and educator. He's going to be having a very interesting conversation with Lon Woodbury. He is an independent educational consultant. Before starting with them, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world. You can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that is going to benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, when we are live streaming, we have an active chat. Is the screen that you're going to be seeing on my side or under the screen in case that you're following us from a smartphone, and through there you can interact with us. We also want you to collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content. And for that, you can go to our website. On the top, you're going to find the link. It says collaborate with Mindalia. The link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out for our technical team to be getting in contact with you. You can collaborate with us in English through Mindalia TV English, as you already know, but you can also do it through Mindalia Televisao in Portuguese and Mindalia Televisión in Spanish. Visit our different channels, follow our platforms, Instagram accounts, Facebook pages, and with that, you are not only helping us reach our goal, which is reach as much people as possible and help raise the level of consciousness in the planet, but you also keep yourself updated with the amazing information that we share there on a daily basis. I'm not going to be delaying this any further, and I now have the great pleasure of leaving you with Dan Blanchard and Lon Woodbury. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Myrna. We're very happy to be back on the show, and we always have a good time here. Welcome, Lon, to the show. Good to see you. How you been?
Well, doing fine. We got spring weather out here, and the rain's gone away. We're doing great.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. So for the audience, let me introduce you to Lon Woodbury. Lon Woodbury is an educational consultant. He does the Woodbury Reports podcast. So he's a podcaster as well. And he helps families, parents, families with maybe some children or students that are struggling. And of course, Ron loves his books. So he's a book reader, book lover, all that sort of stuff. And he's been doing some great things out there. So Lon, I just scratched the iceberg on telling the audience who you were. You think you could fill in a few gaps of telling our audience who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, I'm first off a location. I'm in North Idaho, way off in the middle of nowhere on the West Coast. And I'm an independent educational consultant. And what I've done is I'm sort of slowed down now. I guess you could call it semi-retired. But what I spent as educational consultant was helping families around the world, actually, when they had a kid that was acting out of control or getting into troubles or getting involved in drugs or entitlement, help them find resources, particularly specialized in residential resources. And I primarily worked with therapeutic boarding schools or wilderness survival or wilderness therapy programs. And I think it'd be interesting if you want me to talk a little bit about it, about how this came about, because this is a network based upon a different philosophy of how to work with kids that are making very bad decisions. You know, getting involved in drugs is a bad decision. Running away from home, yada yada yada. And back in the 60s and 70s, a lot of experimental things happened in the 60s. And by the 70s, there was a lot of criticism of the mainstream medical, what we call the medical model, to where you do a diagnosis. So when the kids have a problem, you do a diagnosis and then you treat them. And I started in 1984 at Rocky Mountain Academy. And I got to talk to a lot of students to where they weren't being helped. And the Rocky Mountain Academy and the Cedar School, the sister school in California, decided, well, the problem isn't a disorder. The problem is a kid is immature. They're maybe 16 going on 7. Mm-hmm. So it's an almost adult in the body, or in an almost adult body, and with the emotions of a younger child. And they weren't mature, and they were expected to be mature, and got into a lot of problems they were facing, and they got angry, and all these things developed. So their idea was called emotional growth. The problem with most of the kids that were having those kind of problems was emotionally, not emotionally retarded in the psychiatric sense, but just emotionally delayed. They were 16 going on 7. And so they developed a program that helped a lot of kids that had gone through a lot of different areas and a lot of different treatment program and didn't work. And this was a last resort. So I was that's where my background is working with this.
Mhm.
And the kid being having a disorder, bipolar, ADD, or what have you,
Yep.
they just hadn't grown up. And so
Mhm.
they had an emotional growth. They had a whole program, 2.5-year program, what they started with, 2.5-year program to take them back through the stages of human growth development, like Maslow's pyramid,
Yeah.
and get them around to where they can function as a society. It was a I call it the emotional growth challenge. And so I'm still working with those kind of programs. They've got a lot more therapists.
Mhm.
When I first started, it was anti-therapeutic almost, but now the therapists are involved, and they have ropes courses and experiential education, all those things, working with the kids and providing treatment. So that's sort of my orientation. That a lot of kids disorders sometimes doesn't help, like ADD. If you get a diagnosis of ADD, that really doesn't tell you much.
I got to tell you, I've been working with those type of kids forever as well. You know, a kid that's,
Mm-hmm.
you may have a 16-year-old kid standing in front of you, chronological age, but emotional age, they're like 8 or
Right.
9 or maybe less. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
you forget that. I mean, you look at them; they could be taller than you. You know, they look old, and you forget that emotionally they're so young and so immature. And then you ask them to do something, and they can't do it or won't do it, just like a little child. But you don't think they're a little child because they don't look like a little child. And then as an adult, whether you're an educator, coach, parent, whatever it is, you get like upset and frustrated. And you're like, why won't these kids just do what they're
Well,
supposed
they're
to do?
entitled,
Or
or
they should know better, right?
they're purposely being contrary.
Yeah, like, and I hear it all the
Mm-hmm.
time. They should know better. But it's like, but they don't. They don't know better because they're emotionally like 7.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know better. And I remember, Lon, I was trying to create, I work in the public school, although I've been in and out of all sorts of different kinds of schools. But I work in the public school right now. And I remember trying to start a special program where I'd have the kids come to my class. I'd keep them all day long. I'd take them on the schoolyard and I put them through physical fitness, sort of like a little bit like Army like. Tire them out a little bit, get them back in the classroom. And a lot of all these unique things that I was going to do, our school turned it down, said that we couldn't do that. And I said, why not? And they're like, it's way more than we would ever expect any teacher to do. I mean, the amount of work you're going to have to do, it would break the union contract because it wouldn't fit within the parameters of the typical model of regular public education. And they're like, and we can't ask you to do all that extra stuff. And they were going to need special transportation to get there like a little earlier and all that sort of stuff. And they just didn't want to do it. I said, listen, I don't mind. I'll do it. And they go, well, what if your program's a success and then you move on? What teacher's then going to do it? And the answer is probably none, right? Probably none, because I was still fresh from the military. So I had like that military background, and they were like, probably none. So when you're working within the public educational model, there are a lot of limitations, a lot of restrictions. You got to stay within certain parameters or you just can't do it. So when you throw out the stuff you're doing, Lon, with the wilderness stuff, wilderness survival courses, the residential, I think that's gold. That is huge. That's what so many of these kids need. For our audience members who may not be familiar with that stuff, can you tell them like what exactly is the difference and why are these like residentials, wilderness survival, why are they so beneficial to our kids that are having troubles?
Well, the way I saw it, and I visited a number of these and went out on the trails with the kids periodically. Now, a little bit of background: I was raised in North Idaho. After I graduated from high school, I spent the summer on a Forest Service lookout and did the hunting and fishing and hiking and all of that. It's very, very beneficial. Now, what these kids are, it gets them down to basics. When a kid been living in a city, all concrete, and the only trees they see standing looking at each other is in a public park. They don't have the sense of nature. And you put this kid, say a kid from Los Angeles, put them out in the trail with a bunch of other kids, and they look around and no electronics, all the amenities that they're used to, gadgets and cell phones or anything are gone. They get back to basics. What's really important: food, shelter, and clothing. Mm-hmm. And like one of the lessons the kids might learn in that is that when they make camp, okay, you cook your own food. And if you can't get a fire started, you might have to eat it cold. And or some consequences, natural consequences is used. And or they're setting up tents and the kid doesn't want to do it. He says that's too much work, it's yada yada yada. And it rains at night, they're going to get very wet.
Yep.
And of course they won't be cruel and make them stay out there the whole time. They might let them into the shelter, but they learn the lesson that they have to take care of themselves. They have to do something. People won't do it for them. And a lot of group work. Half a dozen kids or whatever number there are. It's generally half a dozen to a dozen. Might be going on a trek, a couple miles to the next campsite, and they all work together. And one of them says halfway there, "Oh, I can't do it. It's too tough." Well, one thing they might do is say, "Okay, well, you stay here, and we'll just be down the trail a bit when you get ready to hike." And a city kid sitting in the middle of the wilderness with the trees all around them, it sure catches their attention. Plus, there's other peer pressure. The other kids, come on, you can do it. Don't slow us down. We don't want to fix dinner at night. There's all those things, the factors that teaches the kid the importance of dealing positively with others. That food, shelter, and clothing are much more important than the latest video game. And those kind of lessons. That's part of what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're saying there, Lon, about you take them away from their video games.
Yes.
You take them out of that city life that they're familiar with, and you give them some natural consequences. I mean, right now, the only consequences they have, maybe a detention, maybe in-school suspension, maybe a trip down to the police station, whatever it is. And pretty much everybody...
That all comes as punishment, not consequences.
Yeah, those are not natural consequences. And pretty much everybody fixes everything for them anyways. In the end, it's not like they're, it's going to rain out. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're not going to eat. You know what I'm saying? They're going to eat somehow. They're going to have some kind of shelter. So I love the natural consequences. And it brings me back to the time I was in the Army, Lon, and you may get a kick out of this story. I'm in the Army. We got our rucksacks. We're getting ready to go out on maneuvers. And my jacket, my fill jacket, put it down on my rucksack, standing there waiting to I'm getting ready to go out. And one of the sergeants calls me. So I go over to see what the sergeant wanted. And it was something about the maneuvers of the day, all that. I get back to formation. All of our rucksacks are in formation. Reach down, it's getting colder. And we're getting ready to go out maneuvers. Reach down to grab my jacket. It's gone. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Looking all over, asking people. Nope. They all say, nope, didn't see it. I go out in the woods. It's freezing out there. It's getting dark. It's getting cold. I'm getting really cold. Out there for hours. Come back to the Army base, the armory, and I'll never forget, Corporal Betancourt opens up his backpack, or his rucksack, and pulls out my field jacket and gives it to me and says, "Hey, Private Blanchard, never leave your jacket unattended again." And I got to tell you, I never did. I never left anything of my Army stuff unattended again because I was cold. I was cold and I learned. Like our students, they don't get that natural consequence.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
love your programs do that.
Well, the natural consequence is important because if it's punishment, if somebody does something to you, you could blame the other person. You could play those games. Like you could have blamed the corporal, and that could have been an out. But it was a natural consequence. But I could see some little snot-nosed kid saying, blame you and blame him. I'm cold because of what you did. Well, that's not quite fair because, as you said, you didn't watch your stuff.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes down to parenting, there's a lot of natural consequences we can use. I know many times I've heard my wife yelling at my kids, "Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that!" And I look at them, I go, "Don't do that." And then if they go do it, I let them. As long as they're not going to get hurt, I let them do it. They get the natural consequence. You know, whatever. They stub their little toe or whatever. They get wet, you know, or whatever it may be. They get the little natural consequence. And then they don't do that again. They don't do that again. You know, and then I see parents all the time. They just micromanage their kids.
That's right.
And then when they turn their backs, their kids do it again. You know what I'm saying? And then they're like, "Why'd you do that?" And I'm like, "Listen, you probably didn't have to tell your kid 15 times not to do that. Maybe once or twice would have been enough. Tell them once or twice not to do it. And then if there's a natural consequence that doesn't involve the kid getting really hurt, but if there's a natural consequence, let the kid feel a little uncomfortable. Let them feel the discomfort." And I think too many parents are afraid to do that.
Oh yeah. The helicopter parenting situation has gotten really bad with this latest college scam. That's the pinnacle of, as I see it, of helicopter parents or snowplow parents. They call them now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, remember the old days?
That what?
I mean, I was watching a TV show last night, and you know, this grown adult said, "I remember, Dad, I took your car out for a joyride. And when the police called you to tell you that they had me, you said, let them spend a night in jail." I mean, the kid was like, that was a tough consequence, but it was a natural consequence.
Natural and appropriate.
The boy out, and the boy later on went off to go become a police officer. So it couldn't have been a terrible experience. Must have been some learning going on there.
Well, one thing you mentioned, the public system. One thing that at the CEDU, the experience we had there, and then these therapeutic boarding schools, they're private, so they have a lot more freedom. They don't have a lot of the regulations that public schools are under. Like, say, some of the things you try natural consequences in a public school setting, and if a kid gets uncomfortable, there could be a lawsuit involved. You could be blamed for being mean to the kid or something. And it's very rigid, a lot of the laws.
Yeah, it really is crazy. When we talk about that, you know, the kid gets upset. You made the kid uncomfortable. Kid gets mad at you. You know, next thing you know, you could have a lawsuit going. And I know right now some of the public schools, they're trying to do this restorative justice, restorative discipline, a consequence, you know, as close as possible to natural. It sort of fits the offense.
A lot of peer pressure.
Kid was spraying graffiti. You make the kid clean the wall and maybe a couple more walls. Kid throws trash down the stairs. You have the kid picking up the school grounds. You know what I'm saying? You do all that sort of things. But from what I'm seeing, and I don't know if you're seeing this too, Lon, from what I'm seeing is the public schools with all those budget cuts, they just don't have the resources, the personnel available to pull this kid aside, which may be a one-to-one, when the kid's out picking up trash, policing the schoolyard, cleaning off graffiti, or trying to do some kind of restorative justice that fits the offense. They just don't seem to have the resources. or the personnel to do it the right way. So it's not being applied. They're falling down on the application. And thus, I'm seeing more and more kids getting away with like no consequence at all for their poor behaviors, which is probably leading more kids down that road to being more challenged, more troubled, and maybe more residential if we don't get a handle on that. I mean, are you seeing any of that?
Probably in some cases, the staff, the teachers are afraid of the kids.
I see that as well. The teachers have been handcuffed, and there's not much they can do. I mean, I've had experiences where I've sent a kid out of the room, and I know many other teachers have done the same thing, and where the principal has called you up on the phone and said, what did you do to make the kid mad?
Oh, yeah. I run into some of that too. The advantage, what I liked in what I was doing was these are private schools, and they didn't have those reservations. The parents paid the tuition. It was a hefty tuition. And so the parents were committed to the program, or the kid would have never been there. So we had parent support, and sometimes you don't have that in the public schools.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I know I was talking to somebody earlier today about the whole concept of these kids having in their heads that school is free. You don't pay for it. And when you don't pay for something, you tend not to value it as much. And the thing is, school's not free. The adults, their parents included, are paying for it in taxes. So we need to somehow get that out of their head that school is free, and thus they're not paying for it, thus it doesn't have a lot of value. Somehow we need to do something about that and change that mindset of school is valuable. I mean, what do you, the kids today are different. I've seen it. You've seen it. I've talked to many, many educators that they've seen it. Can you share with us a little bit how with the audience? I mean, how are kids different today? And what are some of the things that you're seeing that shows that they're different today, and why? Why are they doing that? Why are they different today?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is they don't have the home front support. They have parents that are distracted, both parents working. That's been a big difference. Another factor I think is important is we're moving to huge mega schools, because I think it was in Idaho, and I think this was around the country about 1950. There was a big move to consolidate. You consolidate all these tiny little neighborhood schools, and you can get a large school and enough money to hire qualified or better qualified teachers and better things like that.
It's a cheaper business model, right?
That what?
It's a cheaper business model, right?
Yeah, it was largely a business model. Consolidate the schools, and you can save money, and you can have bigger labs, and you can have cathedrals. All kinds of neat things in the school. We've gotten away from the old thing. There's a reason why the one-room schoolhouse and the McGuffey readers are considered the golden age of education.
No doubt. And we've lost that neighborhood feel. Where the kids would be known. All the teachers knew all the kids. The teachers knew the kids' parents. The kids would be out with their parents in the grocery store and see the teachers, the principal, the paraeducators, the lunch lady. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew everybody in that old little neighborhood school. And that is gone. When you're going into these large box schools of 3,000 students in one high school, you look out there, you don't even know if that kid belongs in the school.
Right. Well, it's a lot more effective if you see a kid running down the hallway and say, "Johnny, stop that," is much more effective than, "Hey, you, stop that."
Yeah, and they're not going to stop. They're going to keep running, right?
Right. And hope maybe they didn't recognize me or didn't know me.
Yeah, and in many cases they don't. I mean, I talk to teachers every day. They say kids walk by them every day in the hallway all day long, and they're like, "Who is that kid? Who's that kid? Who's that kid?" I mean, education is based on relationships.
That's right.
If you don't have that relationship, the kid is not going to work extra hard for you.
Well, that's one of the reasons on the schools that I work with, and I refer back to CDU and Rocky Mountain Academy. The upper ceiling was about 200 kids, and 200 was considered a large school in that. And when I first moved up to Idaho, I had 4 kids, and we had we put them in the school, the 2 younger ones, and it was a K through 8. And my reaction to K through 8, that sounds like an anachronism. That's old fashioned,
Oh
even
yeah.
in the 80s. And watching it, there's about 180, 160 kids in there. Everybody knew everybody else. The older kids would help the younger kids. They could have two different class levels in, say, the seventh grade. Like my kids were ready for eighth grade algebra when they were in the seventh grade, so they got partake of it. They had that flexibility. But the important thing is everybody knew everybody.
No doubt, I think our educational system is missing that today.
Yeah, we really lost that, and that's one of the reasons. Huge tremendous schools, like say, I remember one of the comments in Columbine. There's the kids that did the shooting, and the trench coat gang. Vice principal, who was charged of discipline, never heard of him. Never heard of him. It was a clique that's what the vice principal is supposed to be on top of. But in 2,000, 3,000 kids in the school, there's no way they can. And I remember when in 1950, I was a kid. My dad was the superintendent of the small school. And he was fighting against it because the prediction was we're going to lose the community school. Mm-hmm. Well, we did. In Idaho, we kept it for grades 1 through 6, and oftentimes junior highs, but the high schools all got consolidated, and kids were bused from all over around here, bused from all over the county. And again, we lost that small feel in order to get economies of scale.
Yeah. I would love to see us go back to the old days of those old neighborhood schools and the community feel, that neighborhood feel, where everybody knows everybody. And, you get those relationships and you build on those relationships and you're at the kids' sports game or whatever it is and you see them on the restaurants. Yeah, you bring that back. I think we can solve a lot of problems. However, I don't see that coming back.
Well, partly it's a function of our demographics, large cities too.
Yeah, that's true. So that won't be coming back. So is there anything we can do to help our students who maybe don't have a feeling of belonging, don't feel like they're on anybody's radar, nobody knows them, maybe they're a little detached, they're having difficulties, maybe they don't even want to be in school. Is there anything we could do for those kids?
Well, I think the smaller scale, one of the reasons I don't like it, because nobody knows who they are, nobody cares. You mentioned something other that reminded me of the, you've seen the old TV program Cheers? Place for everybody to go, where everybody knows your name and et cetera, et cetera. That's really something that we've lost, partly in the demographic, but partly in the school. I've seen some in Chicago, I think it was, in several places. They tried to break the huge schools down to smaller schools, where each wing was a separate school, and so the kids focused on a couple 100, 150, 200 kids, and I think that was a step in the right direction.
I remember that about 10 years ago. They were making schools within schools, wings, the goat side, the red side, or, whatever. They'd make different. I do remember that about 10 years ago. But even that has kind of like faded away. They didn't really see the results. If you think about it, you still got 3,000 kids within a high school building.
Yeah.
They intermingle, they mix and match. You're not going to keep them isolated. I think the idea was good. It didn't really follow through and have the effects that they wanted to. Outside of maybe residential, outside of these wilderness programs, what advice would you give public school teachers today?
Well, the public school teachers get to know your kids and develop relationships. Because I see a lot of teachers, and I taught for several years back right after I graduated from college. And the relationships are important. It's hard to do because when I was teaching, I taught one subject of the junior high, about 100, 130 kids. Awfully hard to get that many relationships when you only see them 1 hour a day.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, spend some time with the kids, and it's something I saw a lot of teachers after about 20 or 30 years. They are burned out.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
And it's tough to keep up their enthusiasm, and they were the ones that they're just waiting for their retirement, building in their roles and working towards their retirement.
It's a very tough job, way tougher than most people think.
Part of it is,
I don't know.
Part of the system, and there's a lot of things happened. I remember my first school I taught in, both the principal and vice principal had had problems earlier in their career, had been fired for pilfering the student body fund or something like that. And uh, community came down on them. Maybe they're fired and they had to go someplace else to get a job, and that'll be tough to go through. And
Yeah.
and I think they become mousy. That was I liked them. They were nice people, but they're mousy.
Mm, I
It
hear you.
really, yeah. And so it wasn't the role model kids need,
Yep.
and and uh, and just nasty things happen to a lot of teachers.
Yeah. So I know, Lon, that Mirna's going to come back on very soon to wrap up our show. But in closing, she'll ask you where people can contact you and all that. But in closing, is there any question that I haven't asked you that I should, or any advice you have for people that are dealing with difficult students?
Well, you didn't say I had unlimited time to say whatever I want. I could talk an awful lot about this. You
Oh,
got
I
me
know you
going.
can.
But I spent about 20 years in private school, therapeutic boarding schools, and I saw what could happen. I remember I had a couple conversations with some people, and I was talking to them about a school that I had visited, and they thought I was talking theoretically and say, "Oh, if only it could be done." They didn't believe it could be done, and I was talking about a school I'd seen the previous week. I
Wow.
visited back in Maine, I think, someplace,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
and
Well, I guess it
and
can be
so.
done with the right attitude, right?
hmm Well, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of things from some of these therapeutic boarding schools that can be used, can be picked up. Some of the principles, like the experiential learning.
Yep.
I see a lot of nature in some of kindergartens,
Yep.
and the kids getting involved. I think that's very healthy. Get them back in touch with nature is important.
I think that's a great idea, Lon. So I know we got to start wrapping up here. Mirna, you still there? You ready to come back on?
Yes, I am.
All right,
Well,
cool.
hi again.
Right here, I'm hiding. Yes, I'm like the Wizard of Oz, right behind the curtain. Thank you for allowing us, gentlemen, to be a channel for your ideas, for your wisdom, and for sharing your time with the Mindalia TV audience. I want to ask you now, where can our audience find you, Lon?
Well, the best way to find me is my webpage. It's a blog, woodbury.com.
Oh,
I was early in this whole internet game, and I managed to get my last name. I've had offers from people who want to buy it, but no, you have to do something else. So it's woodbury.com. That'll take me to me. It'll be contact information and the various interviews and articles I've done.
okay, that's very
Oh,
nice. Thank you. How about you, Mr. Blanchard? Where can our audience find
well,
you?
thank you, Mirna. They can find me at danblanchard.net or granddaddy6.com or just Google Dan Blanchard. I'm all over the social media, all of them, YouTube. Check me out at Amazon. If you like leadership, check out The Storm. If you like education, check out my newest book that I just released this weekend, How to Become More Successful with Difficult Students. So thank you, Mirna.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure. And to our audience, remember, do not leave without leaving us a thumbs up, without subscribing. Remember also that we want you to collaborate with us with your own valuable content. And for that, you can just go to our website. You're going to find the link there, says collaborate with Mindalia, and that link takes you to a form that you can fill out. You can collaborate with us in English through Mindalia TV English, but you can also do it in Portuguese through Mindalia Televisao and Spanish through Mindalia Televisión. We want to send you now a big, big hug from our heart to yours. And until next time, bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.